Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses. Chair Powell, congratulations on your renomination. The Fed, as has been noted, is beginning to taper its bond buying program, but the program is scheduled to continue through mid-next year. We're talking about approximately $100 billion in November, around $90 billion in December, according to the current schedule that we've seen, created by the Fed, injected into capital markets via asset purchases. Chair Powell, what specific economic purposes does this bond buying continue to serve?
So we are actually, at our next meeting in a couple of weeks, going to have a discussion about accelerating that taper by a few months. And in the intervening time, we'll see more data on inflation, on unemployment, and also we'll see more about the development of the Omicron variants. The purpose at the very beginning was all about market function, and it did a great job the purchases did a great job of restoring market function. When we continued the program and said we would continue it until substantial further progress was made, the idea was to continue to support the economy in the way that lower, longer-term interest rates do. And it served that purpose. Now the economy is strong, and it's strong, and inflationary pressures are high. So we're looking at going to discuss the possibility of a faster conclusion and wrap up those purchases a little earlier.
But with aggregate demand quite strong, in fact, demand currently exceeding supply of labor and durable goods in certain markets, as you noted, rates are low, capital markets are highly liquid. So what economic purpose, and I'm not disputing that there is one, but what economic purpose does this continued bond buying serve today and in the months to come, recognizing that, as you've stated, you and your colleagues will be reassessing the pace of the taper at your December meeting?
So the purpose it has been serving lately, for the most part, has just been supporting economic activity. And you're absolutely, the point I'm making is that the need for that has clearly diminished as the economy has continued to strengthen, as we've seen continued, significant inflationary pressures, and that's why we announced that we would taper, and it's why we're now saying that we're going to discuss a somewhat faster taper at our next meeting.
When future crises arise, as they no doubt will, this specific method, quantitative easing, bond purchases beyond typical federal open market operations, which are targeting interest rates, what have been the costs and benefits of utilizing this technique? Does it not, for example, while it provides additional liquidity to capital markets, worsen inequality by driving up equity and asset valuations and shifting more cash onto the balance sheets of major financial institutions, high net worth individuals, and investors?
So I think the record from this and the last episode is that asset purchases work through much the same channels as regular interest rate changes. Just the difference is when you're at the effective lower bound, you can't lower interest rates anymore. What do? There are two things you can do, really. You can promise to hold rates lower for longer, and that will affect rates out the curve. And then you can actually go ahead and buy bonds directly, and that lowers long-term rates. That supports economic activity. So it's part of the toolkit. As long as we're going to be near the effective lower bound, asset purchases will be part of the toolkit. The inequality point, I think it does not bear up under scrutiny. Essentially, what's happening is companies are experiencing lower, longer-term rates. That enables them to finance their operations. Mortgage rates, the longer-term debts in our economy will benefit from those lower long-term rates and support economic activity through many of the same channels. I think that the idea that they promote inequality is not well supported, and we never, by the way, we never hear about that from the, we meet with community groups and labor unions, and they never come in and complain about quantitative easing.
Thank you for sharing your point of view, Chair Powell. With my remaining time, I'd like to ask you what you currently assess to be the most significant systemic threats to financial stability in the United States.
I would say the banking system is strong. There are some issues to address in the capital markets, but I wouldn't say they rise to the level of grave systemic importance. We always think about cyber risk as being the one that's so difficult to quantify and for which it's hard to have a great playbook. So that's the one that I tend to lose sleep over.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator